Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, welcome back to the channel. It's time to talk remote ID again. It's been a while. It's been a while since I gave you an update, but there's some really interesting things have happened since the last update. I'm going to go through them now. So grab a sandwich, grab a coffee, overnight bag, who knows? It could be a long video, hopefully not. But let's get started with some information that has come from the AMA. Now, I got this from Tim McKay. He's got a YouTube channel. He is quite a strong AMA supporter and a bit of a Spectrum fanboy, but I'm going to point you to his channel anyway because I like to promote people that are doing good things, and Tim is spreading this information, which is really, really handy. Right. The AMA has applied for 1,700 FRIAs, and of those 1,700 applications, 700 have been approved. And how long has that taken? I think they've been going on them for well over a month, haven't they? I'm not sure, but that's so we'd say maybe 300 a week. No, it would be 150 a week. Okay. 200 have been denied. So in fact, they've looked at 700, perhaps over 3 weeks. 300, yeah, I don't know, a couple hundred a week. Anyway, that seems to be all they can manage in terms of processing FRIA applications. That leaves 800 to be processed. And of course, the 200 that have been denied will have to be processed again when they've made changes. So yeah, they've got a lot of work ahead of them, the FAA, if they're going to get these FRIAs improved in time for the 16th of September, which, as of the time I make this video, is only about 2 weeks away. So can they do it? I don't think they can. That could pose a problem for some AMA members. Because if you are an AMA member and your flying field doesn't get FRIA status as of the 16th, you have to go and buy a remote ID module and put it on your plane, your helicopter, your drone, whatever. The problem is, where are you going to get one? Now, a number of companies have announced, oh, we're making them. Flight Test have got the Flight Test module, which will be available sometime. I went on their website, the shop, and I couldn't find how to buy one. So they're not on shelves yet. Spectrum have got their Sky ID, which Tim McKay has ordered one, but there's no guaranteed delivery date. They're saying maybe a couple of weeks. So that might not arrive until after the deadline. We've got things like the drone tag BS and things like that, which tend to be a bit more expensive, and they come from Europe. So I don't know. And they're not on dealers' shelves. I haven't seen huge amounts of them because there will need to be a lot of these things if people are going to be compliant with the rule. If we take a bit of a look, I think there are 800 and something thousand registered drones with the FAA, 815,000 or something I think I saw. And a lot of those will be legacy drones. That is to say, if you've got a recent DJI Mini or a DJI Mavic, DJI has updated the software, same with the Avatar. So remote ID, you won't have to worry about it. It's built into your drone. But there's a lot of people who've got original Mavics, who have got Phantoms, who've got other drones that don't have the ability to be updated to have remote ID. So those people will have to buy a broadcast module and attach it to their drone if they want to fly it outside of a FRIA. So I'm picking there's probably going to be 150,000 odd people out of the 815,000 who will want or need a broadcast remote ID module immediately. And that's a big number. That's a huge amount. Going from nothing on the shelves to enough to meet a demand for over 100,000 units, I don't think that can happen in less than 2 weeks. I really don't think. So this is going to leave us with the unenviable position that come the 16th of September, a whole lot of people who like to fly drones and model aircraft will have a choice of either not flying because they don't have a broadcast module and their flying area is not a FRIA, or breaking the rule. That's not a position that people should be put in. The FAA have really stuffed this up. Whether it's by design or by accident, I don't care. They've stuffed it up. And I know that Tim says maybe they'll be giving a grace period. They'll be deferring enforcement for a few months, just like they did last year. When the first part of this rule came in, the manufacturers were just not ready to start shipping products with standard remote ID. So the FAA said, well, we're going to give a 3-month period of grace. We won't be enforcing the rule for another 3 months until December. And I have a feeling they're probably going to do the same with the second part of the rule. What does that tell us? Well, it tells us several things. First of all, the FAA's job is to make regulation and enforce it. In making regulation, they have to allow reasonable time for other parties to be able to comply. And in the case of remote ID, this meant manufacturers to design, gear up to manufacture, and get products into the supply chain. They failed on the first part of this. Manufacturers couldn't start shipping standard remote ID equipped drones, partly because the FAA themselves didn't disclose the method, the means for compliance, the standard that was going to be used until there was just weeks before the date. So there's no way manufacturers could get that done in the time frame allowed. So the FAA stuffed up. Their primary job they proved they were incapable of performing and doing it properly. Okay, anyone can make a mistake. Now we come a year later and it's time for broadcast remote ID, and exactly the same thing has happened. The FAA has not allowed enough time for manufacturers to design, test, manufacture and get products into the supply chain. So there will not be enough remote ID broadcast modules to go around. So they've stuffed up again. Now, I'm sorry, but if you can't do the job that you're paid to do, and paid quite handsomely, if you can't do the job you're paid to do, you shouldn't be doing that job. So this brings into question the competence of people in the FAA. And that worries me, because these are the same people who have just proven they can't do their job properly. These are the same people who are telling us, you can't fly FPV without a spotter. No. You can't fly BV loss. No. Hang on a minute, these people don't fly FPV, they don't fly BV loss, they have no clue what's involved, but they're going to tell us from a position of ignorance what's safe and what's not. Yet they can't even do the jobs that they are supposed to know properly, like making regulations in a reasonable time frame. But, talk about hypocrisy. We don't know anything, we're going to tell you what to do. And so I would challenge the FAA. Show me, if you go into YouTube FAA and have a look around, you'll find literally thousands and thousands of videos of people flying FPV without a spotter. You can see it plain as day. They've got goggles on. There's no one else to be seen because they're flying around themselves. No spotter to be seen. Find one case where a third party has suffered an injury or damage to their property or a fatality has occurred. And this is over a period of nearly 10 years. Not one injury, not one death, not one instance of property damage. And you're telling us it's unsafe, we can't do it. Well, I'm sorry, but it's clear that you can't do your job in any way, shape or form. You can't make regulations properly, and you can't even do an adequate risk assessment of what we're doing, and you simply say you can't do it. It's not good enough. It is absolutely unacceptable. The FAA has lost enormous credibility here. And the fact they can't do their primary job with any competence further erodes that credibility. I don't know how the FAA is going to get any level of compliance within certain sectors of the hobby, because they don't deserve it. To get compliance, you need the respect of the people you are regulating, and you have lost that, totally lost that, by showing you can't do your job properly. And let's go back to this whole situation with FRIAs. Now, there's not going to be enough FRIAs. Believe it or not, the flight test flight field at Edgewater Park, or whatever it is, that was declined. That was the FRIA application was denied for that. The FAA said, no, can't have a FRIA there. Seriously? This shows that, again, something crazy is going on. Now, it has been said that you can't have a FRIA that encloses a building or a car park or where people may gather, because it's too dangerous to fly models over people, over cars, over buildings, right? Well, hang on a minute. That's what you're trying to tell us, but the reality is that if we fit a broadcast remote ID, if it's not a FRIA and people fit broadcast remote ID modules to their drones and their model aircraft, then they can fly over the buildings, the car parks and the roads. Suddenly it becomes safe to do so. Not having a remote ID module somehow makes your model more likely to crash into a person, crash into a vehicle, crash into a building. Do you really expect us to believe that? I don't think, again, your credibility is just completely trashed by your own actions and your own statements. It could not be worse for the FAA. They have botched this up so badly. And as I said in a previous video, I'm wondering if this isn't designed to fail, whether this isn't a case of malicious compliance, because maybe even the FAA know that Congress has directed them to do something that is really, really stupid. And so their way of showing how stupid it is to roll out regulations that can't reasonably be enforced, because the FAA themselves said we're going to defer enforcement for the first part of the rule and probably the second part. So they're saying this rule is so crap that we're not going to enforce it. What do you say to that? Now, I did mention earlier that I want to do a campaign with the media, educate the media to what's going on, and events recently have played out to perfection for that goal, because if you've been reading the news, you'll have seen that in the UK, airports right across the country were closed for quite a period of time because their computer system fell over, it crashed. And therefore flights couldn't take off, couldn't land, air traffic couldn't work. So the airports were all shut down. People were sleeping in airports, people were stuck in destinations overseas, people were trying to get out of the country, couldn't get out of the country. It was a total disaster. It disrupted the activities of tens of thousands of people over quite a long period of time. And so this is fresh in the mind of the media. The US media covered this and they know what's going on. So when we go to them and say this exact scenario is what you could be facing when remote ID kicks in. It's going to have some impact. It's brilliant. They've got all the pictures, they've got all the sound bites to use and apply it to the American situation. Because although it won't be a computer crash that could shut down the American air transport network, it could be people spoofing remote ID signals, causing airports to close because of ghost drones. It won't be people within the hobby, it'll be potentially bad actors. And it could happen at any time. It may not happen on the 16th. It could happen a week, a month, even a year later. But the potential is there for it to happen. So this is going to increase the weight of our story with the media. Look what could happen. This that happened just a couple of weeks ago could happen here in the USA. That's going to get them thinking, right? and then we go to them. And we also say, and look at what's happened to the freedoms and the rights of children, parents, grandparents, who prior to the 16th could go down to the local park or their local model flying field and enjoy a safe, family-friendly, educational hobby that harms nobody. And now, denied. They can't do it without breaking a federal rule. And the federal rule is so bad that effectively it makes these people into offenders if they just want to go and continue enjoying their hobby, because the FAA has totally stuffed it up. And the rule itself is ridiculous because it threatens the integrity of the nation's air transport network. I don't think we could have organised it better than this. Now, timing is going to be critical because if we go too soon, I know what happens in news organisations. If you get a story and the effect of the story isn't going to be for a few weeks or maybe a month, you put it on a desk and then other stories more important get put on top of it. And over time, what happens is it falls off the bottom. It never reaches the top of the pile because there's always something a little more important. So stories get buried that way. We need to take this to the media very, very close to the 16th. So that it is something they have to deal with now. You can't leave it, you've got to do it now because it won't be a story tomorrow. So now is when you run with that story. We won't get stories put on top of it. So I'm thinking maybe the 12th or 14th of September is when we take this to the media with a great deal of gusto, and then they have all the ammo they need, all the footage from the UK, all these people who are going to be turned into offenders and risk fines if they just go and fly their toy plane where they've flown it for years. Yeah, this is shaping up to be very, very good from our perspective in terms of harmful PR for the remote ID rule. And so stick with me. I've had to change the video that I've made because now we've got this new information, slightly different twist, slightly different angle. So I'll be putting that up and I'm putting a link to it from my community tab. Won't be a public video. It'll be unlisted, so you'll be able to go and see it if you know where it is, but I don't want the general population seeing this video because we may make some changes before we finally release it as a public video. There you go. Hopefully you found this update useful. As I say, there'll be links down there by my man parts and you can have your comment. Go down there by the man parts and say what you think of this. Are things coming along okay? Are you happy with the progress that we're doing? Are you shocked and surprised by some of the information I've given you today? And just give me an update and also tell everybody. I mean, we need as many people as possible to be aware of what's going on. And there seems to be two factions, two camps forming within the hobby. There's the camp that says, what are you grizzling about? Just get a remote ID module, stick it on your model and forget about it. To which I would say, well, where can I buy this $50 remote ID module? Show me, give me a link, point me to the store, give me the address of the shop where I can walk in and buy one of these damn things. Because compliance may not be an option, as I said, for the very reason that 100,000 plus of these units are going to be required within 2 weeks. Compliance may not be an option for people. There you go. Okay. Right, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate those who support my endeavours to protect and promote the hobby through this channel and my RC Model Reviews channel. And I will be back again soon with some more information. Also, it's spring. It's September the 1st here. Spring! So there should be some more flying videos coming up real soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye for now.
Overregulation is like a tumor. It's killing our hobby. It must be terminated. Now!